Otherwise, I think let it go already.
One day, we're going to system hop and test your theory. I just hope you're ready for some serious disappointment.
There was a lot of writing on Starfield. It's Bethesda's first new IP since Fallout, which is pretty wild when you think about it. It's perhaps Xbox's biggest release, possibly since Halo 3, and really, both Xbox and Bethesda kinda need a win right now when you think about it. But now, Starfield is here, something that for a while, I honestly thought it was something I would never say, but it's here. And while it's good, it's unfortunately not great, and disappoints in places where I feel like it shouldn't have been disappointing, but I still really enjoyed it. But let's talk about this. Hi guys, DPX here, reviewing today, Starfield. Now before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell, leave a comment, or I will throw you in space, and you won't have fast travel. Starting off with the good, for one, the gameplay when running around is really nice feeling. Just exploring the many locations and running around them is really cool. I'll have more to say on traveling from planet to planet, but each planet I actually feel is pretty big and you can get lost for hours just roaming around, just taking it in. I've heard people say like, you know, it's really not open world, you know, there's not much to do on these planets. I kind of disagree. I feel like there is quite a bit you could do. And this is helped by just how beautiful the game looks. Say what you want about Starfield, but it looks amazing. Adding to the feel of the game, again, I will say that when it comes to the combat, the gunplay is probably up there with the best that Bethesda has had to offer. It all just feels really tight and smooth and satisfying. There are many guns available. I mainly just stuck with the cutter, but there are many other cool guns too. There are also a lot of characters in the game that you can have join your party. I guess you can call it a party. They can just join you on your ship and you can talk to them about whatever and get closer to them. You know, become friends or even, you know, romantic partners with them, and it feels all the more believable, really. I found myself enjoying all these characters that tag along with me. And also, while there are issues with the planets, the amount of planets to travel to in this game makes Starfield feel all the more huge. And when you are in space, there are many other ships you can either attack, reason with, or even board. Speaking of reasoning with, that's another thing that I like. Many times you'll run into someone and you have the option to just attack or to persuade. And let's just say, you know, for example, you're on low health. Persuasion is like a blessing. I'm also not much of a side mission guy, but I will say that the side missions in Starfield, I kind of enjoy them more than the main missions. And I haven't really touched on the post-game yet. This is really a review of the main game, but from what I played of the post-game, it is really solid. Some other stuff I liked, I really like how you can just simply switch between first person, third person, and a more zoomed out third person. Once again, I do have some issues with it, but what needed to be like an update over a year later in a game like Resident Evil Village and played in a completely different mode, it is really cool to see this feature in a game where you just press a button in the middle of a game. I also really like the customization options. From creating your character to customizing your ship, there are tons of options, and, you know, for the meme, I feel obligated to praise the inclusion of pronouns. But even customizing your character, there are so many options, especially when you get to your background. You can give yourself the background of a bounty hunter, alien DNA, taskmaster, and more, and each have their own traits that affect your character for the rest of the game. I also love how detailed this game is. Stuff like the time zones being different on each planet, or oxygen being different on each planet, which got a bit annoying at times, but There's just a great attention to detail. Additionally, I love the return of the adoring fan from Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Not really a spoiler, this was confirmed beforehand, but it's a nice callback and fan service done right. Lastly, Bethesda said that Starfield will launch with the least bugs and glitches of all their games, and while there still are some bugs and glitches, I gotta say that they were right. When it comes to stuff that actually made me mad, there are only 3 bugs or glitches that did so, which sounds bad, but Bethesda's most recent game was Fallout 76, and even some good games had much worse bugs. So, considering that, this was a very smooth experience.
But I changed my routine for one day, and here you are. It's almost like it was meant to be.
Now on to the mixed. This is stuff that I either can go either way on, or stuff that I feel like are worth mentioning, but not really good or bad. For one, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall Bethesda or Xbox ever outright saying that Starfield is gonna be like Skyrim or Fallout in space, but it's not quite that, and people are criticizing the game for that. While that is a little disappointing, I feel like we should be looking at the game for what it is and not so much for what it isn't. Again, please let me know and link to me when anybody from Microsoft or Bethesda said that or anything like that, and I'll be happy to be wrong. But I feel like everyone kind of just ran with that, and people are a bit upset that that's not what this game is. The other mixed thing is in a similar boat, and that is how a lot of people kind of gas this game up as a, quote, generation-defining game. And while it is, I mean by definition, a new-gen game, it's not generation-defining. And you know what? That's fine. It didn't need to be one, and unlike the whole Fallout or Bethesda in space thing, they definitely never said anything about Starfield being a generation-defining game. Now onto the things that I'm more mixed on that are specifically about the game and like directly affect the game. I mentioned how cool it is to switch between first-person and 2 different third-person perspectives, but there are many times where using anything other than first-person just feels off, especially in combat. Using first-person in combat is much better than third-person. The annoying thing is, let's just say you're in third-person mode, then you switch to first-person, but then you die. The game then reloads you, and you are back in third-person again. Although all it takes is just, you press the button and you switch perspectives again, it is annoying, and I honestly forget to switch it back sometimes. And I honestly shouldn't have to do that. I have it under mixed because I really love that you can simply just switch between perspectives, and when simply just exploring, third person is not too bad, but in combat, just stick with first person. I'm also a little mixed on the music. You look at the soundtracks for the Elder Scrolls game, especially that 11 out of 10 Skyrim theme, and the vibe given by the soundtracks for the Fallout games. I was hoping for a bit better of a soundtrack for Starfield, but instead, there really is just one song that I feel like I heard throughout the entire game, and just this theme. It's just no other song, no other theme, just this one as well. And then there is traveling from planet to planet. Now, I did say that I love the amount of planets in this game, and exploring them is cool, but actually traveling from one to another is a bit of a mixed bag. Now, most of the time, to get from one planet to another will take hours in real time, so you'll end up using fast travel a lot. And I do mean a lot. I was gonna put this under bad, but it's under mixed because thank God for fast travel, as I cannot imagine waiting for like 4 real hours to go from one planet to another. So fast travel is a blessing, but when I say you'll be using fast travel a lot, I do mean you're gonna use it a lot. And that's really not as fun, is it? Now on to the bad. Let me make this clear first, before I even get to the verdict. I do like this game. However, man do I have some issues. For one, there are times where the game just straight up drags, and it drags like a bitch. Many people say that 12 hours in, the game starts to pick up, and yes, I would definitely kind of agree with that, but no game should ever take that long to get going. I hate to compare this to Baldur's Gate 3, which I haven't made a video about yet, even though I said I was going to, but I need to play more of that. But right away, with how much you're able to do and how many directions you can take the game in, the game hooks you right away. Starfield should have ways to hook you immediately. And to be fair, yeah, I kind of lied, and I don't completely agree with the game dragging until the 12th hour, as the game is pretty enjoyable in those first 12 hours. It was more so a bunch of missions and main quests that either dragged or I hated. Like, I can't even just say I was indifferent about them. Some missions I just fucking hated. One mission in particular that I fucking hated was the one where you scan the anomalies or something. Kind of forgot what it was called. It was something like that, though. But when I got to the mission, the game kind of just dropped me right in. The waypoint just disappeared. There's no map, which I'm gonna get into in a minute. And when you use your scanner, there are supposed to be arrows that direct you to where you're supposed to go, but they just didn't show up for me. And if I'm gonna be honest, when I figured it out, I don't quite know what I did right. And that brings me into my next issue. I don't need a game to hold my hand, because then the game becomes too easy. However, Starfield has you do stuff, and it just doesn't tell you. And to quote Angry Video Game Nerd, this is one of those where the fuck do I go kind of games. You know, the kind of games that make you ask where the fuck do I go? Because often, where the fuck do you go? Each area is very big, but the problem is, and this really hurts the game for me, is that there is no map. Well, there is a map in space, and again, thank God for that, but when you are on foot, there is no map. And when there is no map, and you are in such a big area, you realize just how lost you get. And this isn't the good kind of lost. You know, earlier I said you get lost just looking around and admiring the world. This is not what I'm talking about. So often you will be using fast travel to get to where you need to go. But here's the thing about fast travel. You can't travel if there's too much in your inventory. I guess that's alright, but there is so much that you end up collecting, and the game is very specific about how full your inventory needs to be, and it's just annoying. Another thing is that because you are using a lot of fast travel, that means you are going through a lot of menus. The most of the game is pausing and going into the menus, and I did get used to it, but the problem is, if the UI sucks, a lot of the game being menus is kind of annoying. Again, I got used to it, but I'm putting it in bad because there really isn't anything cool or satisfying about going through the menus. The load times are also a little worryingly long. I played this game on a Series X, so I feel like the game shouldn't be taking this long to load. There are also some other technical issues. The game will drop frames at times, and it's very noticeable, and while this is the least buggy and glitchy Bethesda game at launch, there are still bugs and glitches. 2 separate occasions where the game crashed, I think. The game just froze, and the only thing I was able to do was go to the home menu and close the game and reopen it. So yeah, I think it crashed. Then there is also the glitch that I noticed has been around since Fallout 3, and maybe even earlier than that, when the game autosaves when you die, so every time you reload, you immediately die. Now, seeing it on the offset, you know, it's funny, but oh boy, that fucking sucks when that happens. Luckily, I was able to go to a previous save state and get out of that, but after all these years, you would think Bethesda would know how to fix that by now. By the way, I know some of the stuff I complained about are in other Bethesda games. Doesn't mean I like it.
My mother wanted me to be a doctor. A doctor?
Overall, I really enjoyed Starfield. The many planets you can visit, the gunplay, the attention to detail, there is simply a whole lot to love about this game. However, while I did like it, I didn't love it, and I really wanted to, but it either lacked or disappointed in areas where I feel like it shouldn't have. Traveling from planet to planet should feel jaw-dropping, but instead, all you're doing is using fast travel, and even then, you're navigating through some annoying UI. And the lack of a map makes the game feel confusing at times. But it's weird. I have more things to complain about than things to praise. but I like this game more than I don't. This is a good game, and don't let that deter you, because seeing how divisive this is online, it seems like my opinion might not even line up at all with yours. So, I'd say it's a no-brainer for Game Pass for sure. Regardless, in the end, I'm going to give Starfield a 7.5 out of 10. That's my review for Starfield. What do you guys think? You know, this, like I said, this game has been pretty divisive. People are giving it like fucking 4 out of 10s. People are giving it fucking 11 out of 10s. I feel like both of those are very extreme. But what do you guys think about Starfield? Do you guys like it, not like it? Have you guys played it, not played it? And if you haven't played it, do you guys want to play it, not want to play it? Anything about the game, let me know down below. Anyways, be sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, or I will strand you in space and you won't have fast travel. Bye!